The Pyro Archon, a god resurrected from the ashes. And this is the story of Mavuika, the current Pyro Archon that we saw in the recent trailer. Now, I'm gonna have to convince you that she's the Pyro Archon before I can actually tell you my story and my theory. But obviously in this new trailer we were shown a bunch of new characters, and in a brief trailer we know that Hoyoverse can show so many little details. Every little thing they show means something, even the most insignificant thing at the time. But it would seem that there are some people that don't actually think she's the Pyro Archon, because obviously we've heard of Murata from Vanessa's story and Venti referencing the Pyro Archon. Her design, people are a little bit torn on this current Pyro Archon's design, and it hasn't outright been stated yet, but for one thing, leaks in this game are almost 100% correct. Across the board, unanimously, they are saying that she's the Pyro Archon, but you don't even have to look at the leaks to know that. Just look at her design and look at the character. She's hosting the tournament, which the Pyro Archon is known to do. She has an encounter with the captain, and just look at her hair and eyes, fitting the theme of all the other Archons before her. Every single Archon we've had follows the similar theme of having a very specific hairstyle and coloration, and their eyes always give a tell. The Pyro Archon's eyes, in this case, resemble a sun, which in turn resembles fire, the nation of Pyro. Not to mention she turns into a phoenix in the actual trailer that also symbolizes the sun. We will definitely get into that in a second. Farina has water drops in her eye, and Zhongli has that look in his eye like he wants to steal every bit of change in your pocket. Cause he's the god of contracts in Mora, but he's broke as a joke. Point being, she's the Pyro Archon. But why is her name not Murata? Where is Murata exactly? And what happened to the old Pyro Archon? Actually, it's kind of obvious now, and looking back at it, it makes so much sense. This character shown in the trailer, Mavuika, is Murata. They are one and the same. She is the current and previous Pyro Archon, reincarnated. Let me explain. So you know in the trailer how Hoyoverse had this brief little scene where she turns into a phoenix and flies towards Capitano. Well, this is much more than just a brief little cameo of her being able to transform. Oh cool, she can transform into a phoenix. No, a phoenix is obviously a mythological creature, part of many mythologies actually. There's not one mythology that it specifically belongs to, but it's the symbol of the sun. But the phoenix is an immortal bird that can regenerate or be born again. And this bird is associated and symbolizes the sun. Look at her eyes again. A phoenix obtains new life by rising from the ashes of its predecessor. Among legends, it says it dies in a show of flames and combustion, turning to ash and decomposes before it is reincarnated and reborn again. Those of you that watched Harry Potter will know what I'm talking about, because we got that cool scene in Dumbledore's office. Now, obviously you know where I'm going with this. We knew that the theme around Natlan since day 1.0 was the incandescent of resurrection. Incandescent is not as significant of wording, but it resembles emitting light as a result of being heated. And if she can turn into a phoenix, what I'm obviously suggesting is Mavuika is Murata, reincarnated. But when did this all happen? Because we know in Vanessa's story quest, it was mentioned by Venti and some of her fellow tribesmen that Murata was the Lady of Fire, and all of Murata's children having her fiery red hair. Vanessa's tribe being referred to as her children. But obviously I don't think it actually means that it's her literal children, just from her homeland. Now, an important detail about Vanessa's tribe even leaving Natlan to begin with is sort of interesting, because why would they leave their homeland? Why would they turn into nomads? Travel from nation to nation for generations, not just a brief amount of time. Vanessa wasn't even born in Mondstadt. They wandered around for generations until they got attacked by a dragon while in Mondstadt, and then seeked refuge in the city of Mondstadt where the rich nobles enslaved them. But why were they wandering around? Well, I honestly think that Natlan and its war was much different than what we see today with the tournament. I think it was much more gruesome. We don't know exactly the rules and how this applies to Celestia, but we know that Archons can't just do what they want. Ageria, the previous Hydro Archon, tried to give the Oceanids that lived in Fontaine humanity because that's what they wanted, and then Celestia punished Ageria with a prophecy. We all know what happened to King Deshert and Orobashi, and on it goes. So we don't know the stipulations of the war and how that affects Celestia and what the rules are for that nation. But I think it's safe to assume that Vanessa's tribe wanted to get away from that war. I don't think anyone would abandon the safety and comfort of their homeland for just no reason. But that actually brings us to a location in Natlan, the Mara Javari, which is kind of like the dragon spine on Natlan, but it's known as Hell in Teyvat, with ash, fire, flames, and literal death. Like, there was basically 1 or 2 people in history that explored this place and lived to tell about it. Even Bennett's parents went there to explore and they perished. Now Bennett is an orphan in Mondstadt. This place has an incredibly harsh environment, but the environment of this place sounds a lot like the circumstance we seen with the old Hydro Archon Egeria, who was killed during the Cataclysm in Sumeru, and we can still see the remnants of that today. It changes the landscape when an Archon dies, but there's something else that's very significant here. See, Vanessa's clan left Natlan over 1,000 years ago, and it was around 1,000 years ago that Vanessa herself, generations later, had her confrontation with the rich nobles, overthrew them, and became the first ever Grand Master, and that whole storyline. Also, what happened around 1,000 years ago, conveniently, keeping along the same time frame, there was a legendary figure and hero in Natlan's history named Tenok. Around 1,000 years ago, he was a battle-hardened warrior, and he did something significant. He was able to recruit a member from each major tribe in Natlan, and during those days, that was not easy. The tribes did not get along, and the war was not so friendly. But clearly, he was able to inspire them in a way to get them to all work together. But why? Well, I think it's for the same reason Vanessa's clan fled. They wanted an end to this war. And then it says he led the charge against a threat to Natlan, and a great battle took place where he allegedly died fighting with honor and was successful in saving Natlan, or quelling this disaster or foe. And this conflict was the creation of Hell in Teyvat, Mara Javari. Now, doesn't that sound a lot like the reincarnation process of a phoenix, like we talked about? Flames, combustion, ash, and rebirth. This place, much like Egeria's death in Sumeru, is probably the result of the whole death and reincarnation of the new Pyro Archon Mavuika, and thus completing what we seen teased in the trailer back in 1.0, the incandescent of resurrection, the death of the old Phoenix and Archon, and the rebirth of a new one, the reincarnation and the resurrection. And many years later, after all this conflict and the creation of Mara Javari, there were adventurers that were crazy enough to go here, and most of them perished trying to explore this place, Bennett's parents, like I said, being one of them. But they actually literally state that they seen a phoenix dwelling deep within this harsh environment, which was probably their new current Archon they actually witnessed, since she can turn into a phoenix. So essentially what I'm saying is this character in the trailer was the old Archon reincarnated, but is not exactly the same individual. Because it's a death and rebirth process, even though it's the reincarnation, it doesn't mean it's the same Archon, but yet it does at the same time. I don't know, it's the reincarnation process of Natlan, clearly. I mean, we were definitely shown that she's a phoenix, and phoenixes reincarnate, so it just makes the most sense to me. Now, maybe the primordial fire is a result of this, or maybe the primordial fire is what allows this. That I don't know, because we still need to be shown the Dragon Sovereign and how that all ties in with everything else. Now, they left a character out of the trailer that is said to be linked with the primordial fire and the Dragon Sovereign. Maybe he is the Dragon Sovereign, we don't know. Xbalanque, who is yet to be revealed. This might tie in with the primordial fire and explain why this reincarnation process happens, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about this, but this is my theory on why we specifically know about this ancient warrior Tenok, this hell on earth place in Teyvat, and the phoenix reference in the trailer. But I am curious to see what you guys have to say, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there's some truth to this, or am I way in left field? But as interesting side note, and this is going to tie into my next video, if this ancient warrior did defeat the original Pyro Archon, causing the Pyro Archon to do its reincarnation process, then that means that he would have a reputation for being somebody that could defeat gods. Man, if only we had someone like that in the game. Sounds a lot like someone else I know in Genshin. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. To tie the video up in a nice neat bow to summarize what I've said, essentially, the current Pyro Archon is the reincarnation of the old Pyro Archon, the old Phoenix, over 1,000 years ago due to stipulations with Celestia maybe not wanting to anger the gods and break the rules, because we know Celestia They're assholes. That is why the Fatui are trying to overthrow them, and many people have tried. Maybe the original Pyro Archon did not want to upset Celestia. War continued to ravage the land. Vanessa's family bounced. I'm out of here. They left. The rest of the clans fought, probably brutalized and killed each other. It couldn't have been great, and life not easy, but that was just the way of the world. Until a hero rose up, inspired and banded all the tribes together, and they overthrew the Archon, causing that Archon to be reincarnated into the one we see today, and the creation of the worst environmental place in Teyvat. If you're gonna go there, stay hydrated. And in our current game, we're hosting a tournament very soon, where we might get to see history repeat itself. A man challenging a god, possibly the same two individuals reincarnated. Again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Stay tuned for my next video though. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you on the next one. Later.